It is a new normal. This is a corrupted agency. I do not think that the FBI can be redeemed at this point.
Given how emphatic Attorney General Merrick Garland was about not targeting Catholics, about the DOJ not targeting Catholics. We remember that fiery exchange between Senator Josh Hawley and himself just about a month ago now. And this letter that came out yesterday, it was circulated the internet, it says that they, in fact, used an undercover, they said employee, I think they said, but I think that means agent, right? Like they had an undercover FBI agent that they used to infiltrate Catholic churches. What is going on here, Steve Friend?
I think that they've just been exposed as liars. They have descended to depths that we didn't even know they were willing to go to further this war on wrongthink, as from their perspective. From what I understand, the Type 5 assessment that was initiated is far more operational than some low-level analyst who read too much from The Atlantic and Salon.com and generated an intelligence report. But in fact, you have now an undercover agent who is assessing parishes for potential informants to look on their fellow parishioners and provide information.
Wow. Can I ask a question? What exactly does Tripwire mean? This is very fascinating because when you look at this, there clearly was an agenda here to flip these congregations, to sort of agendize them.
Tripwire is just tactical speak for just having developing a relationship. You'll have a tripwire with, if you live in an area where there's a major venue that has lots of large events, you'll have a tripwire for them to have communication, for security if there's any threats to them. So it's fancy government speak for liaisoning. But with this, they were hoping to develop and cultivate a relationship with these parishes, and in the hopes that they would have folks that would be willing to become paid or voluntary informants and to give information back about potential radicalization. And I think it shows that there's this willingness to sort of work backwards and put a square peg in a round hole when it comes to actually looking towards real threats to the homeland from a domestic terrorism standpoint, and instead mutating that into looking at wrongthink and perspectives that the administration disagrees with, being pro-life and pro-marriage, pro-border security. They definitely think that those are problematic, and then now they're weaponizing the FBI and the Department of Justice to go after that.
Why do you think they're targeting traditional Catholics in particular? The SSPX being named in this document here today, but this also was an issue a month ago. Kyle Seraphin, your friend and a former FBI agent who we've interviewed on this program before, who broke this news, said they're targeting traditional Catholics. Why traditional Catholics?
I have my own opinions on it. I think that they worked backwards. They found these certain pillars of belief, like I talked about, with pro-marriage, pro-life, and then pro-border security, and then they tried to work backwards and find an organization that they were content with targeting, that they felt that they could maybe get away with politically. And I think that you have to look especially at the pro-life issue, and as much as that galvanized both sides with the overturning of Roe v. Wade last year, and the fact that traditional Catholics are your boots on the ground historically. They're the OG when it comes to the March for Life. I think that there's definitely an animosity towards that group that maybe pushed them over the edge to be the target number one. But, traditional Catholics in America are the largest block of Christianity, and if nobody's going to stand up for them, then who's going to step forward towards the other sex? And it's just going to be one domino to fall.
I really wanted to point out how emphatic Merrick Garland was in this. Josh Hawley nailed him and said, "Why are you targeting? Why does it seem like the DOJ is targeting?" And I would say, and if you might recall that exchange, out of the entire time that Josh Hawley was interviewing him, the most animated he ever got, Merrick Garland being, like his body language, was when they was referring to that memo that we've been talking about. He got animated. He almost danced in his seat. You could tell like he was very energetic about responding. No, of course not. No, I agree with you. No. And yet we are finding out that, in fact, the opposite is true here. Help me, can you help me understand Merrick Garland? Like, is he just the guy who gets paid to sit in the hot seat, $250,000 a year, and answer these questions and move on? Or does he have any actual control over what happens at the DOJ?
I think that he's a very politically partisan individual. For all the talk, especially when he was nominated to fill Antonin Scalia's Supreme Court seat, as him being this moderate and down the middle guy was just all bluster. And you don't need to look any further than the way he behaved in that hearing with Josh Hawley. Certainly, the fact that he was so atypical in his response to that question, to me, just screamed that he was prepared and he was told you need to emote with this response to really hammer home the message. But I don't think when it comes to Merrick Garland, I don't think when it comes to Christopher Wray or anybody in the upper echelons of power within the FBI and the Department of Justice, words to them are just instruments and tools to preserve and expand their power. I don't think that there's a connection between what the words that are coming out of their mouth are and what they actually intend to in their true beliefs. And it's incredibly disturbing because now you have a weaponized law enforcement agency that is at the beck and call of an administration that is clearly not afraid to use it and go after its political opponents.
So we obviously now have documented evidence that the FBI was trying to infiltrate Catholic parishes, Catholic churches, Catholic communities. Do we assume they do the same thing with Baptists, with Muslims, with Jews, with others?
I think you actually have a historical record, and Trevor Aronson, definitely not of the political right, has written about this, where he talked about the war on terror coming home after September 11th and how the FBI was under pressure to bring these counterterrorism cases against Muslim Americans, and they sort of invented cases or entrapped individuals who were not necessarily predisposed to committing violent acts because they had to show that they were making progress and bringing cases forward. So I think you definitely have a Muslim American population that's been victimized by this in this country for the last couple of decades. And just reminded the poem that the Nehemiah, that first they came for the for the socialists, and then I said nothing, and then they came for the trade unionists, and I said nothing, and now they've come clearly for the American Catholic, and it's going to be incumbent on everybody from throughout the spiritual and religious spectrum to step forward, especially for this for what we've seen in the last 48 hours, to actually step forward, or there's going to be, like I said before, a domino effect where you're just going to have one after another, and finally we will have nobody left.
So what do you recommend Catholics do in this regard? I mean, they want us to dime each other out is really what it amounts to. They want us to report on our fellow parishioners at Mass. Are they secret skinheads? Are they, whatever? And which is the most bizarre thing. Catholics and skinheads have nothing in common. And yet this is the assumption. It's just the most bizarre thing ever. But nonetheless, what do you think Catholics ought to do with this information? How should we be suspicious of that stranger that walks into our parishes? We've never said, well, I've never seen that one before. I mean, is this how we're supposed to conduct ourselves?
It's sad because even if there's no if they did nothing else, it created this disturbance within these parishes, which are communities, and it's just very disappointing. But I don't think that's going to be in the traditional Catholic nature. I think that certainly in all my experience with my friends and family who are traditional Catholics, it's just met with open arms and very accepting. And I think that needs to be the response, certainly at Mass. But I think within your own life, you got to use your best judgment. You have. I was joking actually with our mutual friend Kyle, and he said that if you have somebody who suddenly has all access to things and wants to talk to you about these very politically partisan issues, but only Monday through Friday, 8 to 4 p.m., that's a sign, that's a Fed. So you need to use your best judgment, but also I'm a firm believer in the doctrine of the lesser magistrate. Definitely develop a relationship with your local authorities, your city council, your mayor, and most definitely your sheriff, because those are the people that are going to be responsive to you and hopefully can cultivate an environment in your county that is almost a sanctuary from federal law enforcement encroachment.
Okay. Well, how is the ship left harbor? I mean, has the train left the station? Is it possible to put this genie back into a bottle? I mean, this morning, the other one of the other bombshell reports we found out was, in fact, the White House coordinated with the DOJ for the Mar-a-Lago raid down in Florida for records there. So there's clearly an agenda going on at the DOJ. There's clearly a manipulation going on. Is it reasonable to assume that we could simply vote this thing back to something that feels normal, or is this the new normal?
It is the new normal. This is a corrupted agency. I do not think that that the FBI can be redeemed at this point. I think that the best thing that could happen for our country is for the Republicans in the House to expose a lot of these things as they've been trying to do, bring more forward to really galvanize some support for the fact that this agency needs to be eliminated. It's just beyond redemption. I was just even thinking about the fact that it's so politically weaponized. They need to view funding the $11 billion and this new $2.5 billion or however much it's going to be for the new headquarters of the FBI. That's no different than our military leaving war material behind in Afghanistan for the Taliban. You don't provide aid and comfort to your enemy here, and I think the FBI has demonstrated itself to be an enemy of the American people, and it needs to go the way of the dodo bird. Certainly there's a place for federal law enforcement, but this brand is so tarnished, I don't think that there's any coming back from it.